It's live.
All right. So let's go ahead and kick it off here. Turn off my phone for starters would be a good move. All right. So this is a special meeting of the trustees, a joint meeting of the trustees and the Parks Committee. So Debbie, you want to go ahead and call the meeting to order?
Yes. Mr. Kelly?
Here.
Mrs. Batchelor? Here. Mr. Freeman?
Here.
All right. And Debbie, you want to lead us in the pledge?
Oh, sure. I'll be glad to. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you.
All right. So I guess we'll hop into the joint work session items in regards to the park stuff. Doug, I guess we can start with you. I'll probably have to. Okay. So.
All right. Yes, I'm. Let's see. So just looking at the agenda, just kind of the status of the Parks Master Plan. I'm having some issues here. Hold on, bear with me. There we go. So just to kind of update on the Parks Master Plan, you know, we've had a lot of momentum this year with the projects, with the Learning Center project and the safety projects, the additional walking paths and the safety berm for the playground. Those were two key elements of the master plan that, you know, through fundraising efforts and grants, we were able to, you know, get those projects completed. So those were, you know, two big goals, and I think a great way to get things going with the master plan. Just as far as, you know, other items, you know, additions to the park plan, you know, we have added the dog park master plan as a part of the master plan as well. And, you know, things are underway on that as well. You know, one of the things that we've talked about in the past couple of months, and I think what has precipitated this meeting was, okay, so we've, you know, completed these projects. You know, we want to continue, you know, working to make improvements. So we wanted to set some priorities, especially with, you know, gaining some of the Amelia parks and looking at some of the conditions of things there, you know, and trying to establish some priorities. You know, some things that are, you know, still kind of being worked on, but, you know, require, you know, funds that were part of the master plan is the history trail. George Carpenter has been working hard and gathering content with a lot of help from, you know, longtime residents of Pierce Township like Mark Cann and Scott Light. You know, been really helpful in that regard, and we're kind of doing some of the background work for those, and actually have, you know, 3 with content put together and a 4th, and as far as, you know, artwork for a sign, and another one with, you know, content nearing completion. So while we're working on those things, to actually put them into action, you know, will require, you know, some fundraising and planning and that sort of thing. So, you know, with that, another probably big thing that we have kind of identified as a priority for the parks is to, you know, this has been discussed, you know, since the beginning, is obviously the fence material at the ball fields at the main park. They're next to the township building. In addition to the fencing along the basketball court and the tennis courts needs to be replaced. That is a few years ago, Mark Can was able to get kind of some preliminary numbers together, and that was, we're looking at upwards of potentially $50,000 at that point. So again, we consider that a priority, but we also, want to review some of the things that we've seen in the Amelia parks as well, and don't want to lose sight of those, as some of them are safety issues. Does anyone else from the Parks Committee have any further comments on that, or anything to add that I didn't cover?
I think you're good so far, Doug.
Okay. All right.
Doug, I just mentioned that there's still a number of items in the master plan that there's a shelter house, a memorial to uniformed service.
Sure.
There was playground improvements, exercise equipment around the new history trails, and an entrance arch. And then you already mentioned the ball field fences, but those are all pieces that are in the master plan.
Right.
I'm not saying that those ought to be the ones that are the next things on our list we fund, given all the things for Amelia and others. But I just want to point out the master plan's far from completed. We got two big.
Oh, sure. Yes.
But there's a
Right.
lot more there.
That's true.
It also begs the question, since there are some priorities that we're seeing in Amelia, do we need to open up the master plan and include those items from Amelia? So now that we can have a more complete master plan of Pierce Township.
Well,
that's something.
I would just say, while my mic's unmuted here, that a lot of those are maintenance issues and repair and getting things back even to where they should be at the Amelia Park. So I don't know that all of those are really master plan. I think we're going to discuss them later, but I think some are more immediate than that.
I don't know about that. I'm not sure about that. Not from the conversations I've had with people in Amelia. There are some items on there very similar to, what some of the Pierce Township residents had mentioned about Locust Corner. Wanted to have bathroom facilities that were not portalettes, things like that to me would rise to the level, of course, of a master plan item, because it's not a safety issue.
I agree.
So items like that, and maybe this is something that feeds into the next conversation later on this evening. But visioning and allowing some of the Amelia piece to flow into a more comprehensive master plan of all of Pierce Township. I mean, when we did the master plan, or when you guys did the master plan, we were just focused on Locust Corner and all the parks in that area. But now we've expanded to the point now where we've got Pierce Park and the Pierce Trails and Preserve, and we've got the Amelia Parks. It may be a good idea for us to just open it back up again, put together a comprehensive master plan of all of what's now Pierce Township.
So, one of the things that, kind of precipitated, the focus of green space, kind of to bring in parks to that, was the community survey that was done. Right. And so that, the community, there were a lot of comments about parks. So with that, I mean, I think, the bathrooms with running water, of course, was one of those things, but it makes me wonder if, especially with gaining these parks in Amelia, would it be something to consider as far as doing a survey of Amelia residents, similar to what was in Pierce Township a few years ago?
We did do a survey just recently, and quite frankly, I'd have to dig into the results. Eddie has that, and again, that feeds into the conversation that we'll have a little bit later on off of this subject. But I think they dovetail nicely because parks are a major component of a good community. So anyway, I tossed that out for just food for thought. Now that the definition of what our community is has grown. it may be worth taking some time and freshening up that plan, and adding in, making it reflect what the new community is.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Anything else as far as the master plan goes? You know, one thing I do want to, and I shared this with the trustees in an email last night, you know, several attachments. You know, some things we are able to accomplish, you know, smaller projects, you know, at no cost to the township through scout projects. And, you know, we've, you know, over the years have been able to get some things accomplished in the parks, you know, small things through Eagle Scout projects. And there's another, it's actually a Girl Scout troop has reached out to us. Pat Hogan is kind of, you know, heading up all the Scout projects. And he kind of had a running, you know, list and kind of had some things, you know, crossed off that have been accomplished, but then other things that are out there, you know, and they, you know, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if everybody can see that, this is a list that Pat has been managing, and you know, just kind of as things have come up, he's added to it, and things that you know, are crossed off and in gray. This is one of the attachments that was sent to you last night, or things that have been accomplished through you know, Scout projects. But there's additional things going as well, as far as, you know, additional benches on the back trail, you know, and this, you can see some of the different ideas there. You know, small bridge for creek crossings, you know, ravine crossings, you know, just kind of has some of the maps as a part of that attachment, you know, the nature area. You know, there were some markers that were in bad condition that a scout did last year. Some additional things planned as we, you know, get people that are interested in taking care of those. These are, you know, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. We are also looking at Spencer Shank Park. We saw some opportunities for scout projects. You know, we saw a need in our evaluation last winter. You know, the Parks Committee, you know, once the vote had happened in Amelia, you know, we toured the parks jointly and just kind of reviewing where things stood there. And, you know, there's a disc golf course there at Spencer Shank. And, you know, we thought a nice addition that would be a good Boy Scout project would be to build a small footbridge over this creek to kind of help service the disc golf course. Something else that we see as a potential improvement would be also to improve the signage for the disc golf course, because it's all kind of deteriorated and you know, serve that well as far as usage goes. And we've also, you know, Pierce Preserve and Trails, Alan brought that up. There was a scout troop that helped with some trails on the east side. That would be this area over here. They were able to clear some trails in this wooded area up to about this point. And, you know, there's obviously more planned there. And so, you know, we're reaching out to Don Kelly and Keen Frederick, you know, to get their input, especially since we have some potential interest from other scout troops on getting some projects. So that's another angle that the Parks Committee is currently, you know, working, that's really over and above, you know, the Parks Master Plan, or just some small projects for improvements that can be accomplished at, you know, no cost to the township, and helps scouts, you know, achieve their their goals as far as, whether it's Eagle Scout or what. So, does anybody have any, Pat, do you have anything that you would want to add to that as far as the Scout projects, or does anybody have any comment?
I guess the only thing I'd add, you mentioned about a Girl Scout troop. It's actually a scout. It's a scout troop, not the Girl Scouts, but it's.
For some reason, I thought last night you said it was actually
one of the girl troops. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You can't have them mixed right now.
Okay,
So,
I gotcha. All right. So I misunderstood you on that, but yeah, those are just some of the things that we work in the Parks Committee too, that are kind of over and above the master plan itself. Now let's talk about the Amelia Parks. Another document that I shared with the trustees was an assessment that Randy had done. Let's see. Obviously the service department, just because of the condition of it, has put safety fence to kind of barricade off the playground on Arrowhead, as it's a safety issue. It doesn't meet code. It's an old wooden play set. There's some wood that's deteriorating on it, and so the service department put safety fence around it so it can't be used. I think that some of the residents may have reached out to Loretta on it, kind of inquiring about it, but it's definitely a safety issue. I think we should probably hear some from the residents in that area. It is a very small area. I think that John, if he's on the call, it's probably something that needs to just be taken down for now. But then the question would be what happens to that space? As far as, is there, do we replace it with playground equipment? Do we get input from the neighborhood that surrounds it? Those types of things. So it's definitely a safety issue that needs to be addressed. There are also some safety issues at Grow Park that they've identified as well. The base, and this also is the case at Arrowhead Park, is the base is pea gravel, in that that needs to be replaced with approved mulch and landing pads. The pea gravel is not to code for playgrounds. Also, the play set has exposed metal corners. Plastic coatings are kind of rotting away. The asphalt basketball court needs to be sealed and then restriped. John has said that they could do the sealing, but the striping would need to be done by Hauk or somebody that, they were the ones that did the resurfacing at the main park earlier this year. There's again some maintenance items, but safety issues. The picnic shelter at Grove Park has a broken electrical outlet that needs to be fixed.
Already been fixed.
It has been fixed. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. And just looking at some of the picnic tables there at Grove Park, they could stand to be pressure washed and coat of sealer, applied to them. Let's see. For that, I guess actually was more on the shelter itself. The picnic tables have metal bases. They could just be, fixed up. They're, have carvings in them, graffiti. They could be replaced, just the wood, and still use the frame. So, we sent that to the trustees to kind of review. He talks also about the porta potty there, but one thing I do want to share is some of the pictures. So these are some of the pictures from Grow Park. This is a bench that is near a tree, but there's roots, kind of coming out. It's kind of a trip hazard and, just not in real good condition there. It should probably just be removed. But this is some of the playground equipment and what you can see there, with some of the plastic coatings coming off and rust showing through. Obviously not a safe situation with kids, playing on it. This is, some additional rust on some of that equipment. This is the basketball court there at Grove Park. Or no, that's actually at Spencer Shank.
Both courts need to be resurfaced.
Yeah. This one actually has a few cracks as well, there at Spencer Shank. And, but I think these are some of the kind of immediate things that are maintenance things and potential safety issues that, that we feel, really need to be addressed fairly soon. So I don't know, John, if you have any other comments on, some of the safety issues, whether it be at Arrowhead or at Grow.
As far as for Arrowhead, it's a very small piece of property. And if I remember correctly, when our insurance company did the assessment of those parks, I think one of their concerns was fall zones. And with having the ravine and that fence and the trees and everything right behind where the swings were, they were very concerned about what is considered a fall zone, of somebody getting hurt really bad because of that. So, I don't know that we would be able to put swings back there, because of the insurance possibilities. But you could probably do like a jungle gym. But as far as swings, I don't think, swings would be a possibility.
Yeah, and this picture is actually of that. You don't really see the fall zone that John was kind of referring to. You can see how they put safety fence around it just to, keep kids off of it. Because it's certainly not a safe situation right now.
There's handrails that are gone, everything. I mean, it's really bad. And I would like for the trustees to give me the blessing to take it down as soon as possible, because I'm afraid that somebody's going to rip down the fencing and then get on it is what I'm concerned about. But as far as Grove Park goes, that the play set there is, it's in pretty rough shape also. And there is, as the lady pointed out in the pictures when she had reported it to us, some of those edges are pretty sharp. With that rubberized coating that's come off, and I can't think of anything that we could do to spray on there to keep it from being a problem. With all the rust, it's probably anything you spray on, it's going to just peel right back off. And then the bench, the roots have actually, I think, engulfed that bench. So we're going to have to cut the bench out somehow. I don't know how we're going to do that, but without destroying the tree. I personally think that the number one priority needs to be to get Grow Park compliant, that it's not as much of a safety issue. The seal coating that's all cosmetic. But you guys are, if the trustees are going to approve money or say do something, I say we need to, one of the parks open there, we need to focus on any of our money that we could put towards park next year. It needs to go towards Grow Park and keeping that one open. That's all I got.
Okay. Do the trustees have any comments? at this point regarding, Grove Park and Arrowhead?
Well, I think with Arrowhead, you may want to just get your finger on the pulse of how much use. I think, Doug, you mentioned that how many folks in that area, or maybe Alan did, are using that park, and kind of what its value is to the people in that area. Yeah, so there's really the only thing that's there is that playground equipment. So with it kind of barricaded off, I mean, it really, isn't being used, or I think it may be. A thought I had is to, survey kind of the immediate neighborhood there to, kind of understand what, how much it was used, what, are some potential, things, would they want it replaced? Does it become a picnic grove? I don't know. I just, it's kind of odd in that it's kind of sits kind of on a corner in a subdivision street. So it's not even really on kind of a main road, even like Grove Park or Spencer Shank.
If John is saying the insurance company, is that the one, John, that you said the insurance company has a problem with?
As far as, the fall zones, kind of, yes. But Arrowhead Park is essentially, it's on the same road as Grove Park. It's just farther back.
Right.
And I kind of made just kind of my thinking is, do we expand Grove Park to a bigger playground set to accommodate for the loss of Arrowhead? Because the play sets that is at Grove Park right now is very small. It's fairly small, especially when you compare it to like what we have over here at Pierce Park or at Spencer Shank. But if you expand and make the one park bigger, it's going to accommodate for all those extra people that would be coming up, was kind of my thinking. But I also understand the residents, that one was close to my house, and I understand that aspect of it too, that now we have to pack, instead of walking there, we're going to have to pack up in a car and drive up there. So, I get both sides, but that was just one of my thoughts was, let's see about maybe expanding Grow. But I mean, obviously the residents need to have, a say in that.
But the insurance, they said they were concerned about a fall zone, but what about the equipment as a whole? Was it considered?
Yeah, they were very concerned about the equipment.
Yeah, so I think then a priority is get rid of it, what's there, or bring it to code. Because right now nobody can play on that.
Right.
So why would you leave it there if there's a danger to a child being hurt, John?
And that's where I'm at, is shouldn't we just get rid of it and then deal with the consequences, after that?
I agree with you. You wouldn't want to see a child get cut on the sharp edges or something.
Right.
I mean, if it's not usable now, why leave it there and take the chance of someone going on it?
Yes. Okay. We'll get it down.
That's my opinion. I don't know what Alan and Nick think.
Yeah, I think personally, that's probably a good short-term approach, and then get your, just like Doug said, maybe figure out from the residents in that area how much it was used before when it was operable or whatever, and try to come up with an idea on how to move forward, whether it be putting more stuff back there or maybe putting your money back into the park, Grove Park out in front of the.
And they may like it if it's something that you can enlarge at the other park and make that better. They may like that better than having something smaller down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would be helpful to me, John, and to the park committee, You know, I know that we've got a really nice list of things that need to be upgraded in those parks. And there's probably some more stuff that we need to add into that as well. But a good exercise is to sit down and figure out how much this stuff is going to cost, so we can get a good sense of what the budget's going to, what we can work out of our existing budget and what we have to go find. Debbie's heard me tell this joke too many times. How much is it going to cost in American dollars? So we can go out and try to find it. So I guess what I would ask is that, you know, we try to sit down and come up with that price tag. And then we can work backwards to lay out the strategy on how to pay for everything. And that'll actually educate us a little bit more on what to do with Arrowhead, because then it also gives us time for the folks in Amelia to give us their thoughts. But that way we can sit down and decide, well, if we take down Arrowhead, then what can we do for Grow to make it bigger, better, you know, more attractive, but then also what we could possibly do at Arrowhead if indeed the residents would like to keep Arrowhead. You know, what's it going to cost to do that too? And what is that, you know, financially, what does it look like? But also physically, what does it look like? So I'd almost like to sit down with you, John, and Debbie, and you know, some folks from the Parks Committee, and have a strategy session on what that's going to, you know, what that dollar amount's going to look like. And then we could start to lay out, you know, revenue streams, just kind of like what we did with the roads, John, the other day, and just start to work it backwards from the dollar amount to then find the revenue streams. Well, a lot like what we did with the Learning Center back in the early days.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's where we need to go from here, is to lay that strategy out and then come up with an action plan that has dollar amounts and where we're going to find those dollar amounts, perhaps in our budget and perhaps outside our budget with grants and other opportunities.
Yeah, when we did look at playground improvements for the township park, and I would just caution people, when you talk about replacing things, playground equipment is incredibly expensive. We had a relatively modest item we priced out in the master plan that was amenable to younger kids and whatever, and a jungle gym kind of thing. And it was came in at almost $43,000. So it's one thing to talk about this, but that playground equipment is really expensive stuff.
And correct me if I'm wrong, George, but the other issue that we ran into was if you do any upgrade, you have to make sure it's compliant with, what is it? The
ADA. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Which
Well,
may mean that we have to like completely redo everything.
Well, I've been over to Grow and I've been to Arrowhead, and I will tell you that the equipment that's over there is I mean, it needs to be replaced. I mean, there's really not much choice. I mean,
Yeah, I don't think, right, that you're not, it's not like you're adding to something, it's you're replacing
right.
it. So,
And just for comparison's sake, what's that Spencer Shank right now? According to the Game Time catalog, ran about $85,000.
Wow, it was
to
$56,000.
bring that. I'm sorry, Renee?
It was 56,000.
But that might have been what it cost when it was put in, but when was that?
That was last year. Last year that was replaced.
That's brand new?
Yeah, brand new. Yeah.
All right, thanks. That's better information than we had.
Well, I mean, you know, it's a bridge we're going to have to cross.
And Alan, on that, if I may make a couple suggestions, because I did, I'm sure, I don't know if you got on Facebook today, Alan, but I did put out to try to get some information tonight coming into this meeting on what people, you know, want to see in those parks. And, you know, I'm hoping that, you know, we're going off whether or not and when the village is going to be dissolved. But I would like, and I've talked to John a little bit about this, you know, if we're going to talk about Arrowhead, it's a place where the older kids hang around and do nothing but destroy equipment. That's what it is, because It
Well, then we
does.
have our answer, right?
It's far back, where the police will go up and sit at Grow and Spencer Shank. It's so far back and down in that dip that everything that we would fix was destroyed again within a week. I mean, we had even talked about putting, the deer cameras up in the trees so we could catch the people doing and I know that's probably not going to be a popular decision, but if you take that money that you would have put into Arrowhead to make it compliant and make everything, you can put more equipment at Grow. And like John said, it's a half a mile difference between the parks. So why spend that money? But back to the disillusion, is there any way, and this is something that the trustees are going to have to decide, it's going to be a pretty good chunk of money coming in. Why can't we earmark some of that money for those priorities at this time? If the committee gets together, the park committee, and can find out what the priorities are to bring them to compliance and to where that money may be earmarked for there. Just a suggestion, but something to think about where it doesn't, put you into the fundraising and even us. I mean, if we need to go up there and hose off equipment with power washers, I can tell you I can get 30 people up there next weekend. You know what I'm saying?
I'll see you there.
Okay. I'll bring my power washer. But I mean, those are things that we can reach out to the community to try to bring us all together to show that this is what we're trying to accomplish. The other thing is with that, with the Frisbee golf out there, why not go to some local businesses and see if they'll sponsor a hole where we put their name on have the Boy Scouts or somebody make things for $100, you get to keep it there for a year, and that's money that can go back into the park system. And I know Mr. Hogan with Troop 443 has been the most gracious when it comes to Eagle Scout projects. And I don't think Todd Hart was a facilitator. We had people that volunteered to do those bridges and he never got back to them. So those are opportunities that were lost prior to this. I think when you include in your master plan, we can't forget about the pond up at Sedona Ridge. Those benches look exactly like the pictures that you took, Doug. I mean, they're leaning forward. You can't sit on them because you're about to fall over.
Those benches can be a cheap, easy fix.
Okay. But yeah, I wanted that out there because, a lot of people here bring their little kids up there and it's something for them to do. And that was always something I wanted to make where there was a couple picnic tables up there so people can go up and fish and have a picnic and it's easy and nice. Again, the big thing that they wanted were bathrooms. And I don't think Grove Park was as big as Spencer Shank in getting bathrooms up there because that's where we used to hold everything was at Spencer Shank, no bathrooms. The ADA equipment, John, you said the equipment up at Grove was horrible, but I think the swing set stand may be okay. And I'd like y'all to consider getting some ADA swings in there.
I don't think we're going to have any choice. I mean, it's part of the law.
Right.
If we if we invest in that park, we're going to have to put in ADA.
That's not 100% true, Alan. If you advertise it as ADA compliant, everything in that park anything in that area has to be ADA compliant. But if you don't advertise it as ADA compliant, then it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that if we put in new equipment, I think it's going to be required to be ADA.
Well, right. And that's what, Spencer Shank is going to be too hard and too expensive to go ADA, where Grow is the flat, and it'd be easier to put, a pathway to, just one swing. We have, right off the top of my head, I know 5 children just in Sedona Ridge that are confined to wheelchairs. And that was my biggest pet peeve when we spent $56,000 on play equipment, and the play equipment at Spencer Shank is for ages 6 to 12. There's no toddlers can't play on it. And maybe if we, gear towards more toddler based stuff at Grow, it's just a thought. I'm just throwing out what people have voiced their opinion today, and we got a lot of response, and I was very happy about that. The other thing I don't know if you guys mentioned was the skateboard thing that's in Grow Park. I haven't seen anybody use that in years. I mean, is that something we can put up and get rid of and sell it to make even a little bit more parking space there? I mean, the initial plan was that to have a big skateboard park, and that is nothing. I think that's something that should be considered about taking away. Again, that might not be a popular opinion, but still nonetheless, I think it needs to be considered as well. So that's
those are kind of beyond the initial discussion that we're having. A lot of what we're going to be discussing budget wise kind of seems like it's going to be more the safety stuff, and
right.
How we're going to replace equipment and go about those sorts of things. And that's why we discussed earlier about perhaps reopening our park master plan to now reflect the new reality of what Pierce is at this point.
Right. And those are some of the things that need to be considered. I mean, if you're considering Grow Park, you have to consider the whole Grow Park, which includes that ridiculous state.
Just to add one thing, I just started reading through some of these comments, Renee, and again, this isn't an immediate safety thing or probably a short term, but maybe Parks Master Plan for Doug and you guys, there's a lot of splash pad talk on here.
A lot.
I'm sure that wouldn't be cheap, but I don't know. If you're doing a 5-year master plan or something, I don't know, something. We go to them a lot with our little ones. I can tell you that.
One, right. And that's always been everybody's, and I had thought about that today because, the splash pad at Woodland Mound is under the Hamilton County Parks. Is that something that maybe, donating or giving the land part to Claremont County on the presumption that they make a splash pad where they can gain money from I'm not sure about the logistics or what that would include, but the biggest reason why Amelia didn't do it, one, it would cost probably close to $1 million, but the insurance would be ridiculous on it. And
maintenance also.
Yeah, I was thinking about maintenance right there.
But, there's a big chunk of the land right there at Spencer Shank that is utilized for the helicopter to land at this point is the only thing we've ever done with it. Is that, that's maybe something to consider and look into where Claremont County Parks would like to do it, because I don't think that there's one in Claremont County.
But I do think that, Renee, I think that does fall under the category of something that we would put in a long-term plan.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
And address.
You're not going to do it tomorrow, Alan?
No, we've got the safety issues we got to deal with first. Right. We got to get that stuff resolved. We have to get those parks up to, kind of the standards that Pierce Township has been working on. And so we got to get those things out of the way first before we start to lay out anything that's beyond that.
Bring it up, Nick.
Well, no, it's all great food for thought. It's all great stuff to put in, but it's also, we got to learn. We got to, start at A and move to B.
Right. But
this is a parks discussion, right? We're talking about the master plan, long-term and short-term.
But that's why I didn't bring it up, because I know it costs a lot of money.
I would have no clue. I'm assuming it's expensive. Right. I knew that. I saw it mentioned a lot. I thought I'd bring it up.
But, I hope that helps the park committee a little bit, and we have a great resource with Wake Up Amelia to get instant gratification from people who live on this side. And, I just wanted to pass that along. I know some are wishing dreams, but, you know, I'm going to go off of what Alan says. We don't want to feel like we're the back end of the project, and we want to feel included, you know, in going forward. And, you know, I think that's a big step in the right direction, you know, getting us all together and figure out what the most and safest thing is to do at this point.
Sure. So Nick, if you have that list that Renee sent you, if you would forward that to us.
It's just Facebook, Doug. It's
it's on.
It's
Yeah.
on Wake Up Amelia Facebook page, and you can go under her post and just see what people are.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Doug, you're more than welcome to join the page, and then that way, you know, John will call me when he has something that we need to put out, because people, the first place they go is to us. You know, when the yellow or orange tape went up around Arrowhead, you know, it wasn't, I don't know how long was it, John, an hour before?
Yeah, I didn't get back to the shop here before there was a post up about Arrowhead.
So, you know, we're the quickest way to get that information out. And like I said, if you want to use it for you to ask questions, we don't have any problem with that. That's what we're there for.
Okay. And so what is the specific name of the Facebook page?
It was Wake Up Amelia.
Wake Up Amelia. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, one thing that's not really on the agenda, but I included some information. It is part of the master plan, and being the dog park. You know, we included, you know, we presented the budget back in August, I believe. And, you know, with the dollars raised, you know, for that, you know, Lori Wilson, you know, went out and solicited fence quotes, and actually, you know, had kind of a difficult time getting quotes. And Mark Can also helped out as well in working with Couch Fence. And they've presented a proposal, you know, for the RFP that will complete the work, and it is under budget. So that's one thing we wanted to talk tonight, you know, while we have the trustees' attention, is to look at that. I'm gonna, let's see. So first, this is the budget that we presented, and I've highlighted some of the items that we want to talk about from a cost standpoint, and potentially getting trustee approval to move forward with. So the fence items are this $10,264. The value of you know, gates and that sort of thing for $1,200, and a small dog section, you know, for $2,500. So we've got, you know, close to $15,000 in the budget that was presented to you a couple of months ago. And just kind of going back to the quote. Basically, you know, the option A and option B, you know, option A was for just galvanized chain link fence and installing some donated material that that Lori has. And the next was to go with black vinyl. And they are actually even suggesting that, you know, in their option B, they are including not using the donated material and doing everything in the black vinyl. For, you know, just under $10,000. So we're, you know, considerably under the budget that was in there. And we, you know, we wanted to present this with the potential of, you know, getting a motion to allow us proceed with the fence work at the dog park.
So Doug, the money is there, right?
Yes.
So why don't we do it before they decide to raise the price?
Well, that, and it's I think Mark said last night on the call that, I mean, they would be like 4 weeks out before they could get to it. There's some other things. I think John was, wanting to try and get the concrete pads in, before it gets too cold as well. KEP Electric, we need to kind of touch base back with them, but they were prepared to go ahead and, they were going to donate the installation of the water line back there. So we're going to try and accomplish that as well. But
Hey, Doug. It's Mark.
Yes.
When I talked to Terry Couch, he said 3 to 4 weeks, but we got the holidays coming up and we got bad weather coming up. So
Right.
I would ask the trustees to, and this is the only quote we've received, and it's 5,000 under the budget. I'd ask the trustees to make a motion and pass it so we can get it scheduled and get it going before the end of the year.
I got no issue with that.
I think locking them down makes a lot of sense.
Okay. So Loretta, or Debbie, I don't know, as far as preparing a motion for that, is that something we can do this evening, or do we need to have one prepared for the regular meeting next week? Or
It's a good question.
Do you have all the information, Doug, on what you want to go with?
yes.
Then I would make your motion tonight.
Okay.
If you know
Do we
exactly.
need a motion or a resolution, Loretta?
What's the best?
Just a motion. You only need a motion because it's over $2,500. And I know that they sent many proposals out to ask for quotes. And so as far as wanting to usually have more than one, it's just not an option at this point, but they certainly tried hard and they're within their budget. So I certainly think that you could go ahead and make a motion and approve it. And that gives Debbie what she needs. And we actually have the paperwork here that is the quote itself to do a purchase order from.
Right.
And I agree with that all. That's great.
So Doug, what do you want the motion? How do you want this read?
I would just say, make a motion to approve the quote from Couch's Fence for the dog park for option B for a total of $9,975.
I will make that motion if you want, Chairman.
Okay.
Yes. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Batchelor,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
and Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that's option B for 9,975, right?
Yes.
Okay. And if you could send me a copy of that, that would be great.
I will do that.
Thank you.
And let's see, the next item for the dog park, and again, from the budget, we had in there the purchasing the dual purpose water fountain. KEP Electric and their donation of installing the water line will include the installation of the dual purpose water fountain. So in the budget that we had presented back in August, we had $2,950 in the budget for that. And we have received 3 quotes on that. And the best quote is from David Williams and Associates. And it's, can't really zoom in, but it's $2,907. So, that's something else we would like to have the trustees, if we can. Again, we're within the budget. The dollars are already earmarked for the dog park. So we would like to go ahead and get a motion to approve the purchase of the water fountain to be installed by KEP Electric at no charge.
So moved.
Second?
Doug,
Yes.
is this water fountain frost free?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I think, we would, my recommendation would be that, in the winter months, the water, be shut off.
Yeah, okay. And then my other question is are you able to shut off the human consumption side of it and leave, and then have the dog side of it be able to still work? Because right now with COVID, we can't have, and I don't know how long this is going to go on for, we can't have drinking fountains on. So next spring, when everything gets turned back on, we'll be able to just turn on the lower side.
That I don't know if you can turn one side off or not. I don't know if, Lori, you have any information on that? If it can be sectioned off, I think, we could, go ahead and purchase it, and then, perhaps just because until COVID is resolved, not have it operational.
Yeah.
But for the sake of
it'll be a shut off. So
yeah.
Looks like Lori has her hand raised.
Yes.
I believe that's a question for KEP Electric when they install it, but I believe it's one water line, so I don't think you can shut off one side and leave the other side open. And I think we've been dealing with COVID for so long, people are going to understand that if it's not operational at the moment, it will be.
Well, the only thing that worries me is somebody sees a water fountain sitting there and they run their dog to death inside there, and then they go to the water fountain and it's not working, and it would be.
Well, I know the water fountain that's the dog fountain that is at the Amelia Dog Park gets shut off. And I think people are used to that not being operational during certain times.
Okay.
How hard would it be to put some kind of sign there explaining why it's not operational?
Not hard.
Fine.
Super easy.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
That might be a good solution.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we can work around that.
Okay, let's see.
Is there
Pete,
a sign already on the other water fountain that's already at the park for the people?
No. Nope.
So if somebody goes to use it and it doesn't work, they just have to walk away.
Well, we had so many people. I was just wondering if you could shut it off to where, that's all I was concerned about, was if you could make the dog portion still work, just because that would be pretty cool. I think, for
I think it definitely begs the question that we need to ask that of KEP when they install it.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. I think Pete had his hand raised.
Thank you, Doug. I'm a little bit hoarse, so bear with me. I apologize.
That's all right.
Before we spend this kind of money on purchasing this very nice fountain, and this is not, we're not really certain how long the COVID circumstances are going to be in place, and this is not going to be the only COVID. We're going to have other COVIDs like this in the future. Before we spend this kind of money, is it necessary to go ahead and purchase this fountain, or can we just consider at least running the water line and then holding off on the fountain until we know a little bit more about, first of all, how it works, if there are two ways to operate it, or just one shut-off valve and the like, or do we just go ahead and buy it and set it aside until we know a little bit more, and put up a sign? I'm just throwing it out there for consideration, if it's something that perhaps can be delayed at least for a little bit at this point. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your input. That's a consideration, that we can talk about further. I was thinking about, you know, with them running the line, you know, that was kind of the deal was while they're there, they would install it. So may not be if you know, we had to hire somebody to install it later, may not be considerable cost associated with it, but I mean, that would be one consideration. John, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Do we hold off, you know, or what, or Lori, if you have any feedback?
I think you can go ahead and install it. It just, you know, we just don't turn the water on. I mean, it's that simple. I mean, there's no reason to letting it sit in the building. If we're going to buy it now, there's no reason to let it sit in the building. And I mean, it's meant for outdoors anyways.
And I would expect that it has some kind of instruction on how much you have to stub the line up or whatever. So you almost needed to put the line in.
One of the reasons we wanted to go ahead and do this was John wanted to put in the pad and everything, which has a space for it to drain off. And so we wanted to go ahead and get the fountain in if we could before, when John's pouring the pad, and we just do that all at once.
That makes sense.
Mark?
Yeah. Well, George, you took my thunder away. Thank you. You know, like you always do. Not only do you drink my whiskey, you know, whatever. Anyhow, I would think John, you know, if he'd want to pour everything at once, wouldn't you, John? And you don't want to come back in and do, you know, put the water fountain in after you do the pad, and you're planning on doing that before cold weather. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I think we, you know, order it now, get it installed now, and if there's a concern about the water, we, you know, make sure it's disabled. And I'm sure they can do that, or we can figure out some way to do it.
Well, it'll have to be, if it's not, I don't think it's frost free. So
It'd have to be shut off.
No, I'm pretty sure it is, John. I mean, I've dealt with them before, and I'm about 99% sure it's frost free. It's just like the water fountain that's over there now. You know, the human water, or the one that was there anyhow.
Yeah.
You know, it's a frost free, goes way down, you know.
Okay.
All right, full ahead. Shall we call the question?
Yeah, let's. So
we've got a motion. I believe we've got a motion and a second.
Yes, we do.
All right, roll call.
Okay, Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchelor?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Okay. And then the last item we had, you know, kind of on the agenda for the dog park portion of, or the parks portion of this is trying to, especially with the learning center coming online, you know, thinking about, you know, potential rentals, whether it be for shelters or if somebody was going to, you know, want to reserve the learning center for an event or something like that. You know, do we need to have some kind of rules in place and fees and that type of thing? Let me get back to, this was also in the packet that I emailed out. Bear with me. Thought I had it right here. So we drafted this and went through it, you know, in the Parks Committee over the past few months, and, you know, did some research on what are some other area parks, you know, charging for, you know, a shelter reservation, and, you know, wanted to keep, you know, a fee kind of commensurate with, you know, what Batavia may charge, or, you know, Claremont County Parks or Anderson Parks or whatever. And so, you know, came up with the rates. There was a draft that Amelia had for their shelters. And so we used some of that, you know, information in developing this. And this has been reviewed by Fire Chief Wright, and we made some changes in regard to, you know, grills to, kind of be in compliant with code and that sort of thing, and just to ensure, the safety of the park. And talking to John, something that's, kind of a consideration is how you handle a deposit, and what that would mean if the service department had to go and clean the shelter because the people that reserved it did not do their job to clean up after that. And John, I'll let you kind of comment on that further. So I think there was a suggestion in some emails that Loretta sent me of a deposit of $150. Again, there's questions around how do you police that, and that sort of thing, which, we're obviously welcome for, suggestions, open for suggestions and how to address that. But we felt like, we should, develop this. There was already something that was in place in Amelia, or at least a draft that we kind of worked off of as well. But it's something we think that it's needed. I think we would consider, the use of shelters to be kind of on a first come, first served basis, as are the picnic tables in the main park. I guess the situation would be, having this, if someone, had it reserved on a Sunday from, noon to 2 or, noon to 4 or whatever for a family event or something like that, they would just have, priority, if someone was, sitting there, at the shelter, they would be able to reserve it and for their event. And this was what the fees would be for that. So that was kind of the thought process of why, we felt like we should try and develop something to have for the township to use, with gaining the Amelia Parks and their shelters, and also having the Learning Center now, which could potentially be something that somebody would want to reserve also. So John, I don't know if you want to comment on this, or Loretta, and any feedback from that anybody else has is certainly, that's why we're having this meeting.
One of my concerns are, if somebody reserves it, they leave a mess, and then we don't come in. We're Monday through Friday. We go up on Monday and there's a mess there, and and then they come and they want their deposit back. Well, we say, well, you left a mess, and they say, no, we didn't. It must have been somebody else that was a first come, first serve. I don't know how we get over that hump of that issue.
Right. That's a very valid point.
So that's my concern about it. Because, we don't have weekend people on duty. If it's something that we want to start, it might be something that we put my staff on a rotating shift or not a rotating shift, but a rotating on-call kind of thing, that, one person each weekend is on call, that they have to, or not on call, but they have to come in and check that after the parties, and it just rotates around through the guys.
But John,
one thing we don't know is how often this is even going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to ask is, do you have any other reason for any weekend stuff other than just that?
Obviously, if it's going to get reserved, it's going to be on the weekend. But for the most part, I would think,
But John, if you're going to put somebody on a weekend standby, then you're going to have to figure in their salary, because you can't expect them to do it for nothing.
Yes.
I mean, you're going to have to pay them, whether they're over there or not. If it's their day to be on standby, you're going to have to count on your salaries going up.
Yes.
Mark had his hand up too. Mark?
May I make a suggestion on your concern there, John? I mean, one of the ways to address that is when the people are finished with the event, they take a picture of how they left it and send it to you and say, we cleaned it up. Here's a picture. Everybody's got a phone now, it can very easily be taken, here's the picture, it's dated and all that kind of stuff. Here's how we left it, send it to you, and it's a closed, deal.
Yeah.
Not a bad idea.
Yep.
Could be a requirement of the process when they get get it reserved in some way.
Well, and we can certainly add language like that to the form as well.
And you're definitely going to have it time stamped.
And that's for the township's protection and for the protection of the people that are using the facility too. So, I mean, it covers both, areas there.
Well, and that we could add language, that's a part of their condition of their, receiving their deposit back, their refund. They've got to provide that picture just to protect themselves, and the township as well.
And I'm with Alan. It needs to be timestamped because they could take a picture before they even set up.
Well, true.
True. That's
But it's like you get down to how devious are people going to be to not have to clean up. Like maybe, but
I don't put much past anybody.
Yeah, I kind of don't either. Really.
Yeah, I mean, people are crazy.
You need to be kind of smart and devious and plan ahead quite a bit to take the picture before you start.
Yeah, but if you're looking at the contract and you see on the contract that this picture has to be taken to prove, that it was clean, why not take the shot before everything starts? And then, you've got the insurance.
I know that's how you think, Alan. I'm just questioning.
I'm on my $150 back, man.
Mr. Hogan, you had your hand up and put it down. Do you have a comment?
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, I know you're mentioning getting a picture there, but I was also going to suggest, maybe it's a phone call to say, hey, we're done with our event and everything's cleaned up if you need to check, So I don't know if that's maybe a drive-by is a pretty easy thing to build into the cost of renting in the first place.
It sounds like we've got some more discussion to have on this before it's mature enough to take action.
Yeah, that's kind of why we wanted to bring it up and get, more discussion around it.
Yeah. But I think it's a good idea to have the framework in place,
right?
In the anticipation that it people may want to do that, may want to use it for that purpose.
Right, and that's all we're trying to do. Again, we don't know how often this would actually happen, but we felt like we should have something in place.
I think it's a great idea.
I think if you clean them up and they're nice, I think you'll be surprised. I think right now with COVID and people not wanting to be inside with events, I think there's a very good chance people are going to be very interested in reserving these because I think they're going to be very busy as our partner last spring. I mean, they were jamming.
And if we get it out there that they are available for rental, I think that'd be helpful too. You can put that on Facebook, on our Facebook page or on our web page on a regular basis. At least if people know that that's a way to go, I think you might actually have more usage than we think.
Okay, so why don't we do this? The Parks Committee and John will obviously want input from you. We will kind of go back and try and draft, something to how we can capture compliance, and also, really want to look at the fees too. Again, we want to keep it commensurate with other area parks, but at the same time, we want to make sure that our costs are covered as well.
So, and it might be worth reaching out to like Batavia, Anderson, and Claremont County Parks, just to get a sense of how do they handle it?
Yeah.
As far as the cleanup and the fees and deposits and that sort of thing. That way we can get a best practices approach to it.
Sure.
Well, that's not to say that they're best practices, but
Yeah,
gives you
right.
something to go by.
Just understand what other people are doing.
The one thing that we could do to keep from my guys having to come in is, I mean, I know the police have enough to do, but they are on patrol and they could possibly, just drive by and just take a look at it. I mean, it's,
I think Mark Can should go up and clean it up.
I second that.
Hey.
Motion.
Back off just a little bit. I am humbled by my presence on this call. I just want to let you know that. Did I say that right?
No, we're humbled to have you. We're humbled that you decided to join us tonight.
I know I said that right.
Do we have like dumpsters in the big parks like Spencer Shank or anything?
Well, at least at Grow, I know there's like big Rumpke trash cans there.
Yeah, they're like.
I didn't know if there was like a central dumpster or something.
No.
Then we could tell people that they have to empty the trash or throw the bags of trash in a dumpster after they're done.
Well, there's, like they said, there's the big Rumpke cans that you set out at your curb at those parks. So, I mean, there's plenty of room for trash.
Yeah.
With those. Now, I would like to see those stay after we start taking everything with Amiga. They go on to our contract, because right now I think those are on the Amiga contract that they already have. I would like to see those stay because it does work out very well for emptying the trash, because they come every Wednesday to empty that trash, and that's all we have to do is go around to all the other cans and empty those. We put them in that big can, in the big cans, and we just had to roll them out to the curb and they pick them up right there.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to haul the trash all the way back here to dump into our dumpster. So.
Okay.
So that's something we're going to have to work through as the transition goes through.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all really good feedback on that, and we will take that back and massage it a little bit more and gather some more information from area parks. Let's see, unless any of the other park committee members, have any other things they want to bring up, other than what was on the agenda and what we discussed, we can move on to the rest of the meeting.
I have a question for Craig, right? If he's still awake over there. There's some grills at the end of park, at the end of the shelter.
Yeah.
And they're within the allotted grill. Do we need to remove those?
I think the best thing is you and I can run over there one day when you've got some time. We'll take a look at it and see if we can work around not having to pull them out and
okay.
Yeah, because I think they're closer than what you had suggested, Craig.
Yeah, they're right there with it.
I know there were some changes with the grill stuff in the last fire code that came out in last year, and I know those grills have been there for a number of years, so they may have been okay under the old code. And some things have changed, but we can take a look at it and see.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
No, that's it. And we really appreciate, this meeting, happening. I think it's been very productive, and, appreciate the trustees' time and setting this time aside.
We appreciate yours. You guys volunteer time. All right. So thanks everybody for that good discussion. Moving on to, let me make sure I don't have anybody else. Moving on to new business. Debbie.
I have a request a motion to approve the TIF payment to the West Claremont School Districts in the amount of $42,770.77.
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Batchelor,
Yes.
and Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
And that's all I got.
Not one more thing?
Not one more thing tonight. Nope.
I'm not believing you.
Not yet, anyway.
I don't buy it.
She'll come up with something before the end of the meeting.
That's what I'm thinking. She'll be like, oh yeah.
I forgot.
You guys are knowing me too well.
Uh-huh.
Bonnie, you're gonna miss that.
Yes.
Since we're in new business, I would like to add one item to the agenda that is currently not on the agenda. And it's a completely inappropriate time to do so, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'd like to congratulate our Bonnie Batchelor on her recent election to county commissioner.
Yes.
We are going to miss you, but we're looking forward to you leaving. Because we want you in the commission.
You're going to get 2 kicks. First time I see you.
One.
But thank you.
One, that's why I like COVID, because you can't kick me.
You're not black and blue anymore?
Yes, I've finally healed. And 2, you're leaving. So again, you can't kick me.
Oh, yes, I can.
Oh, yeah, you could always come back and kick me. But no, congratulations, Bonnie. You did a great job. I mean, the campaign work, you did a great job with the campaign. As always, you busted your tail end. And I really wanted to take a couple minutes and congratulate you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And at least you're not hanging around trying to figure out who won and where the votes are coming from. And, CNN's not tracking you down, trying to figure it all out.
True. Isn't that the truth?
Anyway, that's all I wanted. Sorry.
Thanks.
Congratulations, Bonnie.
Thank you, Nick.
All right. Loretta?
Okay, well, I invite all the other department heads that participated in this project to chime in to help explain the details of how this will enhance our system here of including an automated opener for our main public entrance. So that's touch-free. You wave at post bollard and that will open doors. So it'll also make it handicapped accessible for people. But there's also an automatic unlock mechanism and timed locking systems that we'll be talking about in the long run. And beyond the Acme proposal, they work closely with Sonatrol to add some other features that are really going to help police and fire, our essential services, to be able to monitor people before they gain entry into their spaces, since they have many doors to the outside that don't have any kinds of windows in them. They can't see what's coming. They don't see what's needed before they might have a knock on the door at this point, or a buzzer or something like that. So I invite them to speak to that. But my purpose is in requesting a motion to accept a proposal for automated doors and security locks from Acme Lock and Door in an amount not to exceed $23,000, utilizing CARES Act funding to minimize public contact with door hardware and restrict entry to essential staff areas, including police and fire EMS.
Is this item number 3?
This one is number 2. Then
Okay.
number 3
'Cause
has
it's
to
kinda
do with
cut
the other
off.
security.
It's cut off on the screen, so I couldn't see it all.
Number 2.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the page before it. There you go. Starts there.
Because you said 23 and number 3 said 27. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Batchelor,
Yes.
and Mr. Kelly.
Yes. All right,
So-
Loretta again.
In the same breath, as I said, these are really companion proposals. The work would be done at the same time. I'm also requesting a motion to accept a proposal for video monitoring and access control from Sonatrol in an amount not to exceed $27,000, utilizing CARES Act funding to restrict entry and minimize contact with essential staff. This will also give us security fobs, and staff would be assigned those. The doors that they are and aren't allowed to access will be programmed into those. One of the things I think Chief Wright can speak to is the number of times he has to change locks when he has a change in staff. These can be programmed easily. And also the door locks can all be timed as well if we choose to do that. So if you want to speak to that.
Sure. Yeah. So every time we have an employee either resign or terminated, especially us and the police, both of our departments have the push button code locks on all the doors. So all those have to be changed. Our drug rooms have to be changed. And it'll just be a much more efficient way to do that. If somebody leaves, we can just have the card deactivated, or if they lose the card, it can be deactivated. And it also eliminates us, our folks, we're taking drastic precautions to keep everybody healthy throughout the whole building. And our folks start the morning by pushing a keypad every day to get in. So if the person before them, was asymptomatic and had germs and pushed the keypad, we could be shooting ourselves in the foot just from starting the day. So I think it's a huge improvement, something that's been needed for a long time. And I know Ms. Roki put a ton of time into this. It's been probably close to 2 months in the making, and a lot of phone calls and follow-ups. And so, I mean, it's good to be at this point.
And there's also video stations that would be accessible between one at police and one at fire, and then one here for the front office as well.
And I think to the point of the video things, anybody has gone to any of our local schools in the last few years, a lot of the county buildings, it's a very similar setup to what they have with the push button that people inside can see who's at the door on camera. You can have that voice interaction and discussion with them. So it just controls the facility a whole lot better than what we have in place.
Nick, I will make the motion to go ahead with this if you want.
Yes, please.
Seconded.
Mrs. Batchelor,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
and Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Hey, Craig, it's Mark. I just want to make sure that you're going to change the locks here because someone on this call is not going to be allowed in the building anymore. You know who I'm talking about, so just want to make sure that gets done, okay?
Absolutely. We'll make sure she gets her key card that doesn't give access to anything.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
There went your lunch tomorrow, Chief.
Thanks, Mark. I'm sorry I failed to see you had raised your hand for that comment, which is very polite.
I did raise my hand. You didn't pay attention to me.
Nick, can you delete his hand?
All right. Loretta again?
All right, so there needs to be some significant electric work done, especially for the front automated doors. And there is a proposal that John had gotten for me from Safeway. It was on the original proposal when he had gotten the hand dryers, but I didn't know how much would be involved. So there was $1,450 just for that front door. But since we've also added the other elements, I don't know if there's going to be additional electrical work that we will have to have them do. So that's why I'm asking you to also approve an additional amount not to exceed $5,000 with Safeway electrical contractors, just so that everything's covered when they actually get in here and see all of the work that needs to be done when we combine both of these proposals.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Batchelor,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes. All right. Eddie.
Planning and Zoning Administrator Eddie McCarthy requests consideration of a motion to accept a proposal from Red Tiger Investments in the amount of $50,000 to study the COVID-19 impact and gather baseline data and solutions for the Pierce Township Amelia Neighborhood Business District using CARES Act funding. And just as a point of reference, you'll see that the agenda says 60,000, but that number has since gone down to 50 for the project in general. And we've received and distributed the updated proposal from Red Tiger Investments as well. So just a little background on this. This project is essentially using CARES Act funding to manage what are generally considered the second order effects and economic effects from the COVID-19 fallout. And so ultimately this is the end product is to be an economic development and branding plan that takes into consideration all of the factors of the current state of affairs in downtown Amelia and determine a strategy on how best to heal and move forward from an economic perspective, as well as cohesively bring together all of the business owners, property owners, and so forth in the former Amelia Village neighborhood. So I can answer any other questions. Sean Balness and Kelly Kohler, who are from the Red Tiger team, are also here, and they can speak in depth as well on any questions you might have.
Okay. Mark, get your hand up.
Yeah, I do. Eddie, I mean, what do we hope to get from this that we can't do on our own? I mean, why do we have to have somebody from outside do an impact study? I mean, frankly, you have to help me understand what the value is in this for the township and the former village of Amelia. I'm not sure tell me what we're going to get for 60,000. That's going to be useful.
Sure. Well, so the price is it's down to 50, but it's still obviously very close. Ultimately, the intention is to take a market and to basically perform a market analysis and a full comprehensive review of the existing conditions, existing plans, and so on and so forth that we have in the former Amelia Village. And from there, take that information and turn it into actionable items where we can plan more clearly on how we want to address vacancies. We can determine where there are vacancies, what kind of land uses would be better suited for various different areas, as well as also addressing the general branding and character of the Amelia Village as well, the former Amelia Village. And if you remember, we discussed this a little bit at the beginning of this meeting, or at least it was referenced. We didn't really go into depth on it, but we performed a survey late this summer in August. And that survey was really kind of just geared in general toward Amelia residents. And what we noticed from that survey was there was a lot of discussion about businesses that people would like to see in the community. There were concerns about the streetscape. People felt that building facades were just maybe a little run down. They felt like there were some vacancies. And in addition, they were uncomfortable walking in the downtown. And they felt like, I would definitely I would love to walk to the library, or I'd like to go to, get food or something like that, but I simply just don't feel safe doing it. And so taken in totality, we want to turn that information in and put it together into a comprehensive plan on how to fix these various different issues. Because the other thing to consider too is the last Amelia Village plan, which it occurred in around 2000. So a lot of the information that we have too is just, it may very well be out of date. And so this is a good opportunity for us to get business owners, residents, everyone in the community who has a vested interest as a stakeholder into the conversation, while we can use this specific dedicated CARES Act funding to cover those costs. And so ultimately, that part of this CARES Act funding, there were obviously the components of direct, paycheck protection, keeping staff roles, up, all those sorts of things. But the other part of it is there's allocations to townships and other jurisdictions where we can use it to support the economic development, commercial vitality of our private sector community. And that's what this part of, the major driver in this is to use that funding and pull everyone together into an actionable set of steps in order to get the vibrancy back into the community and figure out what we can do to kind of get everything back on its feet.
And it also creates a blueprint, Mark, that it brings in some people who are experts in economic development and in planning that can do a really good job with us laying out what would be a blueprint as we move forward over the next few years, pointing out where we can have some successes and what we should be looking for as far as attracting businesses of, moving into the next 4 or 5 years. So it does a lot of those things that we don't currently have the capability or the skill set to pull off, or the data, quite frankly, that we need to help make those decisions.
Well, I think
Loretta here, if I could just also make sure that we ask Sean to explain what his role and experience is in this and how he adds value to the project. Sorry to cut you off, Mark. Go ahead first.
I'm sorry, Loretta, I got interrupted there a second. Were you asking me if I had a question? Because listen, I got nothing against the 60 grand. I know it's free money, but we're going to get it. The bottom line is we're going to get a wish list, right, of a bunch of stuff we would like to see happen, which we could all, I don't know. You think Fresh Eyes is going to tell us anything we don't know already?
Yes.
Well, why don't we let,
Like what?
Yes.
why don't we give Mark? Why don't we give Sean a quick opportunity to weigh in, and then we can come back to more discussion. Sean, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Yeah, so I'm happy to do so. First, just want to thank everybody for your time tonight. To give a little bit of background on both Red Tiger, and I would be teaming with Kelly Kohler from the Kohler Design Institute on this. My firm was established about 4 years ago, and I'm the founder of it, with the focus of providing real estate and economic development services for projects, and with the focus being where real estate's kind of the focus for catalytic economic development projects. And so I've been working on a number of projects with Kelly Kohler over the last year, and we saw a real opportunity that needed to be addressed with the negative impact COVID-19 has had on business districts. We also felt that there was an opportunity that CARES Act funding could be used by municipalities to pay for these types of reports. And we got a legal opinion from Frost Brown Todd that said that could happen. So we really started to concentrate on how do we address these this issue. Kelly, are you on the line? Maybe you can just give a little bit of background also on Kohler Experience Institute. Kelly, you might be on mute. Well, maybe Kelly's having some issues, so getting on. So why don't I do this? Why don't Eddie, can you pull up the proposal that we put together? Hello?
Eddie, you there?
I think Eddie's getting it loaded up.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
muted. I'm working on it.
Okay.
I think Kelly is just muted. I see her as muted, but I asked to unmute. I'm not getting a response.
You see it, Sean?
I do not see it. Yeah, I see it now. Can you go to page 9 of the proposal?
Nine of the PDF or 9 with the number on the bottom of the page?
The page numbers on the bottom. So I think it's the next page. Great. So really, when we approach a project like this, there's really three phases that we look at. The first phase is that discovery phase. And really what we're doing here is we would look at all the existing work product that both Pierce and Amelia has done around the business corridor, especially the portion of State Route 125 that Amelia has occupied. And based on that existing work product, what we're really trying to do is identify what are common themes, inconsistencies, and any recommendations. That really kind of serves as the foundation initially for our due diligence. The next part of that is, and this would be led by Kohler, is really looking at understanding the impact that COVID has had on that business district. And so one of the main ways that we will gather information around that would be doing surveys with the business owners and
Nope. Sean's frozen.
Can you hear me now? This is Kelly Kolar. I was able to rejoin.
Yes.
There you go. I guess you're gonna have to tag team in because Sean froze.
Tap in.
All right, that's great. So anyway, so thank you so much for the opportunity to introduce our team. Kolar.
My picture's showing I'm frozen.
Okay, great. Sean, I was able to join back in, so I thought I would go ahead and introduce and talk about the front end section of the process.
All right, go ahead, Kelly.
Great, thank you. So the Kolar Experience Institute has been for 30 plus years, we have been studying the impact of place on people. And as we look at the business district and the vibrancy of the business district, there's time for a new model and a new look to regenerate and understand the true impact of COVID. We've been studying with Drexel University and the NOWAC Finance Lab for about the past 5 months, the impact of COVID nationally on business districts. We've conducted a Main Street USA study with 6 communities about the size of Amelia throughout the United States. And so we have been collecting a lot of data and understanding the impact on the small business community. An opportunity here is for us to really get in under the hood and understand not only what is the economic impact on the small businesses that you have and the thriving family-owned businesses that you have, but also start to look at linking what the new vibrancy and the new model could look like. So of course, Amelia has long been a long-standing business community, but you do have some parasitic big box retailers that have moved in. And you also have some great, amazing assets that have moved in. So definitely through this process, we will begin to understand the quality of the sense of place, the story about how Amelia feels about itself as a part of connection to Pierce Township, and how Pierce Township can now really begin to embrace the history, the heritage, and rebuild the vibrancy of this district. So through this analytic process, as well as through this engagement process, we will begin to really understand what the opportunity areas are and build out a framework for the future based upon real data around real businesses and on creating a real sense of place as an asset to Pierce Township.
All right.
And another component to that too is that it's also bringing some partners to the table to help us in that corridor to do some economic development moving forward off of this plan. Groups like Ready Cincinnati, as well as the Small Business Administration that are making their resources available to the businesses in the Pierce Township, Amelia area, so that they can find resources to help them with the troubles of the months ahead. So this is really bringing a lot of the resources together and some big brains together to help us come up with that strategy that we can use to grow our 125 corridor, business corridor. And we also, the county, we've talked to several folks at the county about this. And we've talked also with the Chamber of Commerce. So this is a very transformational project for that corridor.
Batavia Township going to be part of this?
We've talked to Batavia Township, and we will have them on as much as they want to participate.
So one part of it that I'm trying to understand is not so much the total cost of it, but more of the value. So, you know, how many units of, you know, benefit does this provide, and how many, you know, dollars are we spending on it? How do we, how from my perspective, as far as approving an expense like this, and I know it's, you know, free money, but it came out of someone's pocket and they begrudgingly reached in and gave it to Uncle Sam at some point. And how do, you know, there's only one proposal on this. How do we ensure that this is money spent responsibly? And I think all this stuff is good. I'm not saying it's not. These are good things to look into. This is good data to collect. These are good ways to move forward and combat, you know, a little bit of the perhaps economic depression that we've experienced in Amelia. But how do I gauge value with that? Is
Well,
my
one thing I'd recommend is checking our references in the projects that we put in a number of case studies of prior projects that we've done. I really recommend that you do follow up with those references. I think that's one way to make sure that you at least our credibility is there. Kelly, I don't know if you have any other thoughts.
Yeah, I was thinking about, I think that's a great question. I totally agree. I think when you look at the cost of developing a framework plan like this within this time frame, and then ensuring that we're literally creating every single touch point, if you break it down into just smaller bite-sized chunks instead of looking at it in totality, I think you can begin to understand the order of magnitude of what you're going to get. So if you think of just the survey component alone, along with the economic analysis, those are two modules, in addition to really for the first time ever, truly listening and creating an empathy-based design thinking innovation process to the business owners on their needs, their wants, and their desires for vibrancy and support from Pierce Township, since they're newly a part of the overarching community with the village dissolution. And so it gives you a really unique opportunity from a civic branding perspective to take that survey data, take that economic data, and then take all of that ideation, teaming ideas that are going to come out of those workshops where you're really listening. So it's not my idea or Sean's idea or even your idea. It's the community's platform of how they see themselves today and into the future. And so the value, while you said everybody can dream a lot of big ideas, which is very, very true, but the value of actually having a playbook and a platform for you to build from, to plan your work and work your plan, will set you in a new direction with a new story, with a new relationship with every single one of the large owners there, as well as all of the small business owners.
What do you consider a large owner? There are no large owners.
But Kroger's pretty large.
The Kroger's pretty large.
What?
Kroger's pretty big.
Kroger's pretty big.
Kroger doesn't care about this.
They're already talking to us about it.
So what do they expect to gain out of it?
A vibrant community. Those are customers.
Look, you know, I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy. Okay, we've been down this road before, Alan. You know, with the economic development plan that was 2015, and boy, we were going to do this and do that. And I remember somebody standing up and say, "We're going to tie it to the oil prices in Iran and crap like that." You know, and it went absolutely nowhere. Okay. I made many suggestions early on that we put a group of business owners together to have, you know, a business person's club, coffees, Nobody picked up on any of that crap. I suggested we do a SWOT analysis. I know that's SWOT. Oh my God, that's old crap. But nobody picked, I even did it. Okay, I've even still got it if you want to see it.
Great.
Strengths and weaknesses and all those kind of, this is, you know, and tell me please, let's pick out a business and say, Mr. or Mrs. Business person, what's been the COVID-19 impact on your small business? You know what they're going to say? My business is down. You're going to come up with a solution to fix that? I'd like to hear it. I mean, let's just talk about that. I don't see what the COVID-19 thing has to do with anything because it's affected everybody pretty much equally. Okay. Business is down. It's going to be down until it goes away. But tell me, you know, what the impact, what that's going to, you know, what kind of value, Nick, I agree with you. What kind of value are we going to get out of that? You know, on specifically COVID-19. So what?
Well,
tell us what you're going to say.
Here's an example. We just talked about our park committee. We talked about our park plan. We talked about expanding our park plan. That's called a blueprint, Mark. And that's what we've operated off of the last 5 years. And we're going to continue to operate off that. We did the research. We did some of that stuff internally, but this is going to give us more data to make decisions in that corridor and also in our total community that'll bring our communities together. Right now, we've got Amelia and we've got Pierce, and we have two different worlds. This will help bring us together and open a dialogue so that we can lay out a strategy and a plan to move forward. To some degree, this is some of the stuff that you were calling for out of the Economic Development Committee. So that's what we're trying to do.
And you know we're right.
So we're agreeing. And furthermore, to Nick, here's another example of how this is valuable. This is a simple piece. Every time I have to go get a grant for the township, they ask the question, do you have a plan?
Yeah.
And we don't. We get 10 extra points on most applications, if not more, by having a plan. And we can put that together. ODOT is willing to participate with us in this thing. So we can get a team together that's going to come up with a comprehensive plan with allies that we can march out of there with, so that we can start to address a whole host of physical issues. I mean, those roads inside of Amelia, they need help. 125 needs help. When I walk into ODOT and I say, I want to try to apply for money, they ask me, do you have a plan? And we don't. So this puts a plan in place that we can use just on that basic building block right there that will help this township move forward. So,
and you're right. And you're right. I agree. We need a plan, but we did a master plan on the park committee internally with a lot of brilliant people. We have those resources here. We don't need to go outside for that.
I don't agree.
Better about people
when it comes to economic development,
doing this ourselves.
When it comes to economic development, many communities reach outside their community so they can see best practices, so they can do different things, and they can try different practices. And that's all this is trying to accomplish, Mark.
All right. All right, let's keep this open up. Keep in mind, Mark, we got a mute button too on these Zoom calls. Mark?
Yeah.
So, that was a joke. I was just kidding. All right. So
good luck with that, Nick. Okay. Good luck.
Let's just assume for a minute, and from my perspective, that what we have done some stuff in the past, but just moving forward, like this plan seems like a decent idea, and I know you're talking about doing it in a short period of time. So that was another one of my questions, is like, you're doing it in a pretty short period of time, and it's just, again, kind of back to the value thing. I'm just a dumb roofer. Like, I price out a job. There's so many hours that go into it. There's no material in this. It's 50 grand for how much labor hours, what are we talking? And I hate to question it, but we just don't have another bid. We don't have anything else to compare to in regards to the cost of this project.
But Nick, that was my question. Are there other firms out there that do the same types of work that you can compare that price to? Or is this the only one we've talked to?
I don't know on your end who you may have talked to besides us. We have been working on the COVID-19 impacts with the Port Authority of Greater Cincinnati, the Hale Foundation, Fifth Third Bank, and the Cincinnati Development Fund, studying this to develop a 100-day plan starting back when COVID first hit, in concert with Bruce Katz, who's a renowned economist out of Drexel. So our credentials of studying the economic impact of COVID and development of corridors and our experience in placemaking and civic branding really kind of speaks to itself based upon our credentials. The combination of Red Tiger and Kolar together, I think, is a very unique, because this is a certain moment in time that's literally like almost 100-year move for you at this time, with this funding available in this time frame. So I want to be clear that this is an opportunity for you to strike while the iron is hot, to give you the tools and the technology and the platform and all of the information that you need to be moving forward in a post-COVID environment from an economic development standpoint. So those that are first in line with plans will be ready and able to implement faster the next and future forward stimulus packages that are coming out. So from a man hours standpoint, just to answer that question very specifically, there is quite a bit of hours spent in the surveying, the workshops, conducting and preparing and facilitating all of those documents, as well as the diagrams that we need to be able to produce the report. So we plan on showing 125 from a mapping standpoint, as well as all of the placemaking and all of the recommendations that come out of the ideation with the community as a final set of recommendations. And so there will be a series of reports and diagrams and maps that will be able to be used to inform future planning, as well as that framework for future grant applications in partnership either with ODOT or others as you move forward. And Sean, I think you may want to speak to the READY and the partnership and talking to the development community about investment strategies and what that looks like, since I'm more on the physical infrastructure side.
All right.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Renee, you had your hand raised. Renee, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I thought you had to unmute me, so I unmuted myself.
This is a free-for-all tonight.
Apparently, where I agree with Mark and you, Nick, and you, Bonnie, that $50,000 to us seems like a lot of money. I think we have to look at it logically. That money is not coming from, we don't want the residents of Pierce that are Pierce, because we still consider ourselves Amelia, that you're paying for a comprehensive plan to revitalize Amelia and make it part of Pierce. And now let me talk as a resident from Amelia. We have not had anybody take any interest in Amelia and revitalizing us in a very long time. A long, long time. There's I think Eddie said it, or somebody said it, that the last comprehensive plan was way before I was on council, and it might have been even earlier than 2000. And from a standpoint, from a resident, that Pierce wants to take something and make us a better community where people from Pierce are going to want to come here, and businesses are going to want to build here. And we take example of the Premier project that is now sitting there as an eyesore. And if for $50,000, we can find somebody that'll come in there and revitalize that and put businesses or eateries or restaurants or apartment, whatever the case may be, it helps us as a community where we're not going to Uniontown Township or down to Anderson Township to spend our money. We're going to spend our money where we live. And I think that nothing has been truer than Kroger being built I disagree with the big box stores. We don't have that. Kroger is probably the biggest thing. Dollar Tree, okay, and Dollar General on where we're looking on just the peer side. And I hope, Alan, I know this is probably your plan just from our conversations, and I think it's wonderful, but I think that Batavia has to be part of that, because you can't revitalize one side of 125 without doing the other side, because it's still going to look like a crap hole, driving down through there. I'm sorry, but that's what it looks like now. It's dilapidated. You've got buildings that have been abandoned for years and years and years that sit there and do nothing but grass grow up around them. But I think as a resident, I get excited hearing about this, that we may have restaurants that I can walk to down the street. Right. And that's the biggest thing. We want our leaders to be invested in us as residents and listen to what we have to say. And nobody's done that. And that to me is exciting, that we can have places like that. And the cost, if we can do it, and it is somebody's tax dollars, I agree, Nick, but it's not tax dollars from just Pierce, because I don't want anybody coming back and saying, why are you pumping all this money into Amelia when we don't even have Amelia yet? But, we have to look forward and not back, because, eventually we're all going to be one community, and to start it off on the right foot is the biggest thing. That's my 2 cents worth.
Thanks for
Well,
that.
and Renee, another piece to that puzzle is that, yeah, Batavia will have to be part of it, and they'll have to come up with some planning as well. But there are a lot of things we can do on our own, and Premier is an area that really is a key focus. And that's a little bit where, Sean becomes a huge asset, because Sean has done a lot of economic development through this area. He is a developer by trade. And I think that's a piece to that plan that I think we can really get some value out of moving forward. Now, looking at the Premier site, there's been a lot of investment already done in that node of 125. For the Kroger site all the way moving toward, Church Street, Jenny Lind. There's, the two drugstores on both sides of the 125 corridor. So there's a lot of things that can be done that really, we don't need Batavia yet, but we will as we move forward. But somebody's got to take the first step. Right. And as for the issue of using somebody else's money, there's a learning center we cut the ribbon on, and we used a lot of somebody else's money to do that. And so this is, using these CARES Act funds to leverage future growth. I think that's a pretty good investment for us to lay out that blueprint and be able to move forward. And I'll tell you, sitting down with Reddy, they would appreciate having some sort of a blueprint for investment moving forward. And they'll come if we're organized, they'll come.
All right, so Mark, I see your hand up. I'm going to bounce over to.
I think Tom's had his physical hand up.
I've been waving.
All right, Tom, and then Sean, and then Mark will get back to you, because I know Sean.
Yeah, I just want to add a quick point. Mark may not know this, or maybe does, but I did significant research on this issue and wrote an opinion that indicates that the CARES Act funding would apparently qualify to fund this project. And in studying the law, economic development, and as it's connected to the COVID-19 problem, really is a very, very specific thing, and it applies to exactly what Mark was asking before. And that's, if you interview businesses, what you ask them how they're doing, there are going to be some who say, I want to stick it out and stay, but there are going to be some that want to say, I'm done, I want to leave. Economic development means you incentivize those people who want to leave and sell, but more importantly, you want to cherry pick the exact kind of businesses that you want to locate. You want to go to Blue Ash or Anderson Township or Union Township and steal their businesses and incentivize them to come to the former village of Amelia to locate. And they would be the businesses that we would want. And they would be the businesses that would foster further growth in that area. So that's one of the factors I found in doing the legal research to generate this opinion. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom. All right, Sean, I think you had something you wanted to add?
Sure. Excuse me. I want to go back to a point you made, Alan, about the Premier site. So if you really want transformative change for a corridor such as the 125, you're very fortunate to have an opportunity around that Premier site and as well as the adjacent property around it. I know that the Premier site it's stalled, and quite frankly, the sooner it starts to get into on the radar of the right developers, the better opportunity you have of salvaging what's already been done with that building. But the fact of the matter is, you're so fortunate to have a kind of a hub that could serve as a hub for this corridor for that property, but you need a strong plan for it. To go back to what you said about Ready, I mean, if you look at any of the Jobs Ohio incentives, you have to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you won't even be able to apply for the different types of grants and incentives that are out there for economic development. So I just wanted to hit on that. I mean, what I will do, and really the expertise I'm going to bring, is looking at the opportunities from a real estate and a development perspective along the corridor, given the current market and the foreseeable market, but also how to potentially leverage off of this pandemic. Because, for example, I've been working on a major project for the last, 5 years on behalf of the village of Evendale. And that started out with a 13-acre site. And we were looking at thinking, boy, what can we do with this property? And the idea was to really look at, this is much different, but we were near GE Aviation. And the idea was, how can we use that as a catalyst and start to attract their partners, suppliers, and other advanced manufacturing companies to this property? The fact of the matter is, we've gotten to date over $1 million of funding from Jobs Ohio to help us with infrastructure. We've just requested another $2 million, which we'll be finding out in the next few weeks if we get, which we're pretty bullish that we will. But the fact of the matter is, if we didn't have a plan for that site and had not done the analysis, we wouldn't even qualify for any of the funding. So I just wanted to hit on those few things.
All right, thank you, Sean. All right, Mark.
Okay, I promise to keep my comments brief if I can, but first of all, if we had stuck with our economic development plan that we started in 2015, we'd already be well, down the path to having a plan together or have a plan together. So that's my first comment. Second comment is, Red Tiger does the plan and then, gives it to us and they walk away. Correct, Red Tiger?
Well, I mean, so I look at planning and implementation that kind of go hand in hand. So through the plan, what we want to do is start getting the opportunities exposed to the market, so to different developers. I'm a firm believer that if you really want to get the best information, is you have to be talking and you have to have the relationships with active participants in the market, active developers, active brokers, and so forth. Our goal would be to help once the plan is completed. Our goal would really be to help implement the plan. That's what I'm doing in other municipalities. I really, really do encourage you, please check up on our references and check up on some of the projects that we put down as case studies. and ask those representatives if they've seen value in what we've delivered. And I think all of them will say absolutely. I know.
So you do the plan and then you also implement the plan?
Well, I mean, that would be another phase, but absolutely, yes, that's what.
That would be another cost.
Yes, it would be another
It could
cost.
be, Mark. It could be.
Well, here's the problem, Alan. We're good at putting a plan together, but when where the rubber hits the road is where you implement it. And my question is okay, we got a great plan. Who's going to implement the plan? Who's going to go out and start talking to businesses up in Blue Ash and Evendale and say, hey, come to Pierce Township where we don't have any rail, we don't have any water, we don't have a super highway. We got a corridor here that's, well, Renee said something, but it's pretty much a wagon train trail through the village of Amelia. I mean, realistically, guys, implementation, the plan's great, but you got to have an implementation plan or else it ain't worth 2 cents.
That's
So
kind of
those
what
are my
we're,
comments.
that's kind of what we're driving toward, Mark, is to have have a plan that's going to point out markers for implementation.
Yeah,
That's
but
the game plan here.
yeah, but Alan, who is going to implement the plan?
Moving forward, we'll have partners, and potentially we could talk to Red Tiger about sticking around. It just depends on what we decide to move forward with. We have to have the plan first in order to move to the next step, just like the park committee did with their plan, just like everybody else does. This is the way you move forward with a plan. You have to make it first, and then you start to decide what pieces you implement and who's going to be the partner. And that's
Okay,
what the
one more
trustees are here
comment.
for. Excuse me, Mark, I'm still talking. And that's what the trustees are here for. That's what Loretta is here for. That's what Eddie is here for. And then we'll make another decision once we get down the road. And then we'll decide what comes next. But we have to see the plan. We have to have a roadmap. Otherwise, we get nowhere. And I'll tell you, that's where we were with the Economic Development Committee. We had no plan. We had no direction. And it was just, it couldn't achieve anything close to a plan. It came out with a report. We did some of the things in the report, but this is the next step. This is how we move that corridor forward. And we start to identify the opportunities, and then we move forward on them. Now it's yours.
Well, it's once again, the implementation failed on the economic development plan. Okay?
There wasn't, because there wasn't a comprehensive plan. You're forgetting that nothing actually occurred.
That's right. No implementation.
No, nothing
that's what I'm
occurred.
saying.
They couldn't do anything. That's why they were disbanded, because we didn't get anywhere. They couldn't achieve the things that we needed to achieve. None of the people that were on the committee had the skill sets to move the project forward. You even said yourself that the chairman of the committee was talking about oil prices in Sudan. I mean, we weren't hitting on the cylinders that we needed to. These people have the skill sets to give us the answers we need, so we can then actually have a comprehensive plan to move forward with.
My final comment is, you can do the plan if you want to. I will just about guarantee that it won't be anything more than what we already know. But if you want to spend $50,000 of free money and you think it's going to get you something, go for it.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, Pete, you had your hand up.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'll be brief. First of all, I'd like to put a positive spin on this. I see this as an opportunity. This is an opportunity to reinvigorate the village of Amelia and enhance the experience for the residents of the former village. So I think this is a tremendous opportunity, first and foremost. And to speak to the issue of getting a second opinion, if you will, or a set of outside expert eyes on the situation, I think that's fantastic. We do that all the time in my profession, and getting a fresh set of eyes on a complicated situation is never a bad idea. A couple of quick questions. First of all, is there an expiration date for the CARES Act program as it regards funding municipalities, townships, and the like? And this may be a question for our attorney, Frank.
My answer is I'm not sure what the deadline is, but I believe from what I've seen is that it's very, very soon.
Okay, thank you.
Loretta, and then Loretta may be able to chip in because I think she's put in a lot more time on the practical aspects of how the CARES Act funding works. Can you add anything, Loretta?
I can. We have to have any funds approved by November the 20th, because any funds that we have left over it has to be back to the county by November the 22nd. And if we do not spend it all, we have to send it back to the county. And then on the next go round, we would not be eligible for any funds back from the county.
Okay, thank you. And to follow up on that, do we have any other hot items for which we may want to apply for funding before that date?
Yes, I've got several purchase orders, and if you'll look in the rest of the meeting minutes, there's several resolutions for approvals for those purchases.
I guess that might be a point of clarification of my question. So if we don't spend this $50,000 on this project, are there other places where it could conceivably be spent in time for the township to receive the benefit?
It would have to be done by November 20th.
Okay, so it sounds like we're on track to get $50,000 of free money that we otherwise really wouldn't use elsewhere, at least not in such a short period of time. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think it's a great opportunity, and I think the trustees should earnestly consider this as a once-in-a-lifetime circumstance and take the money and run with it. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
Nick, may I just say this?
Yeah.
My only reservation is, I hate this, even though it is money that we can use, I hate to spend that kind of money when I like something to compare it to. That's just me. That's why I asked, was there other firms that we even looked at or other companies that even did this kind of work? I don't have anything against this company. It's just, I don't know. You don't go out and buy a new car unless you probably compare it to another car. That's a bad example, but that's all I was asking, Alan. Did we look at anyone else?
Right now, there aren't a whole lot of firms that are actually doing this combination of work, but I won't say that they're the only one because I am not, totally clear. I will tell you that we'd also discussed the possibility of utilizing in previous months. We had talked about doing the extension of the 125 corridor, and we received a proposal from what is Jay Stewart's company? I can't remember.
Stewart Land Use.
Yeah, and he provided us with just looking at land use planning and looking at roadway improvements. His was like 21 or 22,000, was it, Loretta?
I'm not certain. I can see if I can pull it, but
yeah,
at least in that range, at least 20,000.
And we can make that available too, so that you can take a look at it. But it didn't do nearly as much as what this proposal is suggesting that we do.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, Bonnie. I just, from my perspective, I think this has been good discussion, and this is kind of what I was hoping for. I just wanted a better understanding of, from a value perspective, how a proposal like this adds up. So I don't want it to be perceived as I'm anti-opportunity, I'm anti-Amelia growth, I'm anti anything like that. It's simply a matter of, in our position, being sure that we're spending money responsibly, even if it is free money. And I kind of agree. It would be a lot easier if I had a comparison from where I'm sitting and approving an expense like this. It's difficult without a comparison.
It is.
Would it help? Does it help you to think of it in those bite-sized chunks? So for us, at least on the, and Sean, you can speak on the the scope of how we're integrating this together, but roughly to, conduct the surveys and do the synthesis, we're looking at around a $12,000 time frame. That's at our, average blended rate of around $150 an hour between our data scientists and our, authorship of the writers and the brand strategists. The next component beyond that is the workshop component. And there's quite a bit that goes into running a PhysiDig, a physical and digital workshop component of putting together image boards and benchmarks and ideation, and then facilitating all of that, gathering all of that community input and engagement, and then turning that back around into that idea book of teaming of recommendations of what we heard and what we understand. Then, so that's like another $10,000 to kind of pull that together. And then there's the land use, kind of plan integrating with those ideas and the civic branding around gateways, sense of place, story, connectivity, pathways, and really creating your first center point of kind of a town center along 125 is kind of where we see the opportunity with the growth of the Kroger, and then of course the potentials of these other sites coming together to create more connectivity. Because right now you have the classic, from an urban planning, endless strip mall over and over and over to the point that it blends in and there is no sense of there and a sense of story. And so I think once you look at ways to reconfigure and reconnect and tell the story in a unique way through the citizens of Pierce Township, as well as of the business district and the businesses that thrive there, and you break it down into kind of those, $10,000 increments, you start to realize that it's quite a robust plan that we'll be coming back to you with, in addition to the summary of Sean's economic development opportunities and the grant applications. I know my firm is a Department of Transportation vendor, and so I work quite a bit with ODOT in looking at their grant applications and the transportation enhancement programs and how we look at our urban corridors, our streetscapes, and making them more pedestrian friendly around more connectivity. So we are very well versed in all of the opportunities that ODOT provides, and can work with that, with the team there, the in-house team there, to make sure that we're really firing on all cylinders with grant applications for future opportunities, for matching funds, et cetera. So I just wanted to give you that, at least as kind of an order of magnitude, at least as far as what the plan will include, as well as what the diagramming and bubble diagrams and connectivity from that, land use perspective and recommendations moving forward based on what we hear from the community. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Pete, you had your hand up again.
Briefly, and Bonnie and Nick, you have excellent points. To have a comparison, I think, would be ideal and necessary under ordinary circumstances. But as I see it, these are anything but ordinary circumstances. Forgive me. They're extraordinary circumstances. And my overarching, I guess, opinion would be that as a resident, that this money will be redirected elsewhere to another entity, municipality, township, and the like, by the federal government in the event that Pierce does not take the opportunity and secure these funds. So that would your points are valid and perfectly appropriate, and I echo them. But I think these are extraordinary circumstances where we have the opportunity to secure this bucket of money, and if we don't, it will be spent elsewhere. So it's not as if the money will go back in the federal bank, as it were, or elsewhere. It will be spent and likely redistributed to another municipality who would be interested in taking advantage of these extraordinary circumstances. Thanks again.
Thank you, Pete. Okay. Well, I'm not completely opposed to this project. I mean, that's for sure. But I mean, I can't personally think of a whole lot of investments or things that I've done personally that benefited from a knee-jerk reaction. We have till the 20th to do this. we have another meeting coming up next Wednesday, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we do.
Can we seek out some more
No,
information?
it's next Tuesday. I'm sorry. Veterans Day is Wednesday.
Veterans Day is Wednesday. We moved it to Tuesday, Nick.
Oh, well, thank you. I would have been not there, and then somebody would have to call me. So anyway, I don't know. Is it, I'm going to throw this idea out. I'm not saying this is what we do, just a thought. Could we possibly seek some more information between now and then and bring this back up again and allow the folks here that are presenting to make sure they've got a firm evaluation on their costs?
Loretta here, the only thing that I would mention is that we are on a very tight timeline in that there are only so many weeks to accomplish this work if we are going to move forward with it. We can go back and look at what we had done. It was more of an infrastructure and traffic study related proposal that we had accepted from Klangers originally, and then work with Jay Stewart. That was about $40,000 or so, I believe, that we did pay out of our TIF fund.
Right.
And there were future phases, but the initial study range was for the corridor was up to $60,000.
Of what Nick is saying, we could still do this on Tuesday night and still have the time to get it through.
I think that's true, but I think we need to have a better idea right now of what it is that you need to see. Do you need to see other bids? Because that probably wouldn't be doable by Tuesday. And that's, again, this is the nature of the COVID funds. They didn't give us a whole lot of time to spend them. They wanted us to spend them, but they didn't give us time to do so. So I guess if you could be explicit about exactly what you want to see, that would be helpful to everyone.
Well, for me personally, other bids would be ideal, but that is a short period of time. Perhaps just an insurance that we have a firm evaluation of cost from the provider of this bid, and that 50,000 is definitely what this is going to cost us before we make a decision on whether or not we're going to do it.
And I have no problem with that, but
Do we have something, Alan, broken down that shows us what each part of this costs? And
yeah, I mean, I think that's a way to go. But as I just, we want to make sure that on Tuesday, that or well before that you have the data that you need. So I mean, I would ask Sean and Kelly, can you provide that in a more line item fashion, exactly, kind of how much time versus, how much each of those items will cost.
Hey, Alan, it's Sean. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So without a problem, we can really break it down and give you a very, very detailed breakdown of hours and cost for the proposal. I'm also, at least I can speak on my end, of other similar types of, let's just say, reports that I've done. I'm happy to send links to those reports. I'm happy to share what the cost of those reports were, and I'm happy to share references for the people that I did those reports for. And I think you'll see that from a cost standpoint, it's very consistent with other ones. I think from a quality standpoint, you'll see what you're getting, or have an idea of what you're getting. And I think from a reference standpoint, I think the references will be very positive. So I'm happy. Those are two things that I think we can do. I don't know, Kelly, do you have any ideas?
I have the exact same comment. Happy to share, check all the references, the city of Dublin, up outside of Columbus. We've done a complete comprehensive plan. We've been working there for 7 or 8 years now, helping them as well implement a community-wide wayfinding system funded with TEC monies. Of course, just here within our own region, Sean with, I'm working with Deer Park. Obviously, I'm working with the Village of Uniondale. I've been working with them now for 6 or 7 years with you alone. So yeah, absolutely. We can definitely show comprehensive reports. We can include copies of the work that we did with the regenerator for the Port of Cincinnati, and that included the Cincinnati Development Fund for the 6 neighborhoods within City of Cincinnati. That was $115,000 study that was done in a 100-day period. So yeah, we can share similar reports and cost breakdowns. I'm also fine to, offer for the services that we're providing, the chunks that we're providing in there, kind of an open book review of what we're going to be producing between now and the end of the year. And then of course, any other consultation or modifications that you want us to do. So we are definitely trying to make this the most effective. I would really encourage you, because of the short time frame and the holidays, that we make the decision to expedite this so we can get in front of people and get moving forward on this initiative. But happy to provide that backup, and also happy to have an open book transparency of our work product and as well as our work process for people. We are very specialized consultants. There are not a lot of people that do what we do.
I guess what I'm saying is I would just like to see a breakdown of what each section of the study that you're going to do, A, B, C, D, what is A's cost, what is B's cost?
Yep.
That's I guess is what I want to see. And I
No
know
problem.
it's free money, but I'd just like to see a little bit more than this. I mean, everybody that's ever lived for as long as some of us have around the Amelia area have always said that, it needs help.
Yeah.
So.
Great. Happy to give that. No problem. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys being patient with us too. And we're just little old Pierce Township trying to make sure we're spending responsibly, but
absolutely.
I hate to, but just trying to get our arms around it, or at least from my perspective.
We completely understand. And quite frankly, we don't want you to hire us because it's free money. And the issue is the requirements that really the Fed has put on for the use of CARES Act money and how fast it has to be spent. Because typically, my recommendation would be talk to other firms, because we generally, we do well, pretty often when we go head to head with other firms. So I definitely want you having a good feeling about it and not just, oh, this is free money, so let's just take a chance.
Appreciate it.
All right, so is it doable to get some more of this info and talk about this again Tuesday?
Are we going to table this then for right now?
I move that we table it.
I have a second?
Yeah.
All right.
But thank you for coming and talking with us. I appreciate it myself.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. No, looking forward to the opportunity to collaborating with you. Thank you so much for all your good insights tonight.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, everybody.
See you next Tuesday, hopefully.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right. Make sure we don't have any more comments on that topic. Not seeing any. Find my spot again. All right, Fire Chief Bright.
Thank you. I request a motion to approve the setup and network configurations for computer equipment from Computer Systems Management, our IT vendor, at a cost not to exceed $4,000 from CARES Act funding, noting that this is the equipment previously approved by the board to purchase from CARES Act funding. This would be the laptops and things we approved a couple of meetings ago.
So moved.
So, seconded.
Sorry.
Oh, no problem.
Mrs. Batchelor,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Thank you. I also request a motion to approve the purchase of Motorola APX portable radios and associated accessories from Motorola Solutions from the Ohio State term schedule in the amount of $62,357.91, noting this expense be made from CARES Act funding to reduce the sharing of equipment and shared contact services.
And this is what you and I talked about this the other day, right?
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Batchelor,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Thank you. And if I could just add, Eddie had to step away from the computer for a moment. He said he'll be back if you guys need anything for him, but I told him I would let you know.
Oh man, it's Mr. McCarthy, right?
It is Mr. McCarthy. Yes. Thank you.
All right, Service Director Kohler.
Service Director Kohler requests a motion to approve the purchase of Motorola APX portable radios and associated accessories from Motorola Solutions from the Ohio State term schedule, the amount of $14,874.71, noting this expense is made from CARES Act funding to increase sharing of equipment and shared contact services.
So moved.
Seconded.
Mrs. Batchelor,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
and Mr. Kelly.
Yes. All right, Chief Bachman.
Police Chief Bachman requests a motion to approve the purchase of a 2020 Quality Cargo enclosed cargo trailer from EW Industries in the amount of $2,895 utilizing CARES Act funding. Trailer will be used to store, disperse, and clean items by just one officer. This will eliminate multiple officers sharing, touching, and possibly contaminating items such as riot shields, helmets with face masks, batons, training, range gear. The trailer can also be used to transport COVID-infected items.
Including cats?
You know me. You know me, I got cats everywhere, working home.
I don't know whose turn it is, but so moved.
Second. I was waiting for the cat to come back.
Does the cat get to vote? Are you going to do the roll call on the cat, Debbie?
Yeah. Sandy?
No.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Batchelor,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Sandy.
Meow.
Been a long night, hasn't it?
Yes,
It has. It has.
We got cat noises now. I think we got to move on this. We're gonna move to. I don't know where this is going to
You're
devolve.
gonna have to start hitting the mute button next.
And that's for just board members.
All right. Do we have any other business? Public comment? Anybody else?
No.
Open floor discussion?
No.
Debbie says no.
Deputy clerk's no, and I'm confirming I don't see any. So.
Past Debbie's bedtime.
It is.
All right.
She's got to ride her bike home too. It's dark.
I got my handy dandy flashlight Jeff gave me.
Thank you.
And the cool thing is you're going to go through the cemetery too.
I
Huh?
know. Woo! I need Eddie out there because he goes, Debbie. He's watched Sleepy Hollow too many times.
All right. Well, nothing else. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Oh,
No moved.
All right, guys. Thanks for a good meeting.
Do we need a roll call on that? I think we have to have a roll call.
Want to go to bed too?
Damn, it's been a long day.
Ms.
All right.
Mr. Kelly, thank you.
Ah,
8:15. Woo, and we started at 5:30.
I know. It's a shame we didn't have anything to talk about.
It is, isn't it?
Hey, get out of here.
Night.
Night.
Guys.
Look up your shin guard, Alan. I'm going to kick you when I see you.
Good night.
Good night.